What's up, guys? So today I'm going to talk about flipping in Wrath. That's just a fantastic gold making method. And BilisOnyxia, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this guy. He's been a staple of the gold making community since as far back as before I started the Lazy Gold Maker. He had his sniper string. He loves flipping, and he's done very recently a challenge where he went from a fresh level 1 character to try to get to a token by just buying on the auction house, just running to the auction house, maybe killing some mobs on the way, and then just using the auction house and whatever you can in the major city. And well, his results, he ended up making 21,000 gold in profit over the first 30 days. You can get a token on EU for 7,500, so he definitely crushed it. So we're going to take a look at what he's done, look through some of his results, and I'm going to talk about my experience with the same types of methods. Now, his approach to flipping is very similar to mine. I mean, I've stolen ideas from him in the past. I'm not afraid to to admit that. I mean, all the good gold makers steal ideas from each other when we see someone doing something smart. I know that his approach to flipping, particularly for materials, is very similar to mine. You're looking to buy items that are lower than the market value. How much lower? That's a question to answer. 70, 80%, that's a good max price to have. That's gonna guarantee you a profit, and we're gonna see from these results that's something they did a lot of. If you want TSM settings to do that for you, well, I have settings for Wrath in my Patreon, which you can find in the video description. Bilis also has his setup if you're interested in that, which is also good. Going to do pretty much the same thing. You're going to be able to buy and resell items consistently. So what we're first going to do, we're going to scroll down and go to the beginning. So we're going to have to scroll a little bit, right, on his Twitter feed. This is here, day 1. This is, we can see that he didn't spend much gold, like he didn't have much gold, obviously. And he did some extremely small flips. I think a decent chunk of these are just vendor flips. So stuff he bought on the auction house that he can sell for a little bit more to the vendor. That's definitely what this looks like to me, for instance. It's like 5 silver profit per. I haven't double checked the pricing. This might be the case for the thorium shells as well, because otherwise with this small margin you're going to lose a lot of the gold in auction house fees. Then he's flipped some materials. You can see enchanting materials show up a couple of places here. That's because they have very, very low deposit costs. So if they don't sell, you're probably not going to lose gold. They have 1 copper deposit cost because they don't have a vendor price, so they're perfect for early flipping. Now you can see that after like 3 days he had 170 gold profit, and he had bought and sold a huge number of items. Obviously this thorium shells is a big deal of it, a big part of it. But he has done another old trick that worked out fantastically well for him. Is this copper rod, mining pick, blacksmith hammer. You buy them from the vendor and then you post them to the auction house, and he's made probably 100 gold just off of those 3 items from posting them to the auction house. I find that they sell, how fast they sell varies a lot from realm to realm, but it's something that's really good. And then we can also see that there's a bunch of materials here, a bunch of high volume stuff, rough stone, old school material needed to level engineering. A lot of people are doing that. Solid stone. I've had a lot of success flipping the stones both in TBC and classic. I haven't done that much material flipping lately, but definitely great. And we can see some recipes show up, some one-off items, but mostly it's materials so far, right? And within 4 days he had 387 gold profit. Now the way you do this is that whenever you get your sales, you want to reinvest as much as possible off it. When you don't have much gold, the amount of gold you have is the limiting factor. So when you get your sales back from that day, whether it's 100 gold, 300 gold, 200 gold, whatever, you want to go to the auction house and you want to search through a huge number of items and pick up any that are super cheap. And then you want to turn back around and post them to the auction house. And that's how you scale, because obviously we can see that for every day that goes by, there's more items on the list. Like he's adding more items, he's adding more volume, more different things to sell. This is how you scale. You need to spend your gold into more items that you can sell for a profit. And when you have 100 gold, it's very easy to find items with very large profit margins. Now, my long-term findings from doing flipping for like a longer period of time with many, many different items and money not being the limiting factor, I find that you can typically sustain like 30, maybe 35% profit margin. And if you look in the profit margin column here, we can see that there's tons of deals with more than 100% profit margin. And that's because he doesn't have that much gold, so he can afford to just buy, or well, he can't afford to buy too much, which means that he's just looking for the absolute best deals he can find. He's looking for items that he can sell for double what he's paid And then obviously you're also looking for items that you can turn around quickly, because when you don't have much gold, you want to get your gold back quickly. Even just getting 5% back quickly means you have 5% more gold to invest in other things. So that's the things you're going to be looking for early. You're going to be looking for items that are severely underpriced and that you can also sell. Now here we can see how it looks after 2 weeks. We're up to 5,000 gold profit, 5,700. Now, of course, this might not be the actual gold you have in your bags, because this depends on how much of your gold you're reinvesting. But at this point, you will definitely be seeing your actual gold increasing, most likely. So we can see here that the top of the total profit column, we have Relics of Ulduar. Copper Rod, I'm surprised at this. This is so wild to me. Like, he sold 56 of these for 5 gold each. Is absolutely crazy. And then we have a bunch of other materials. Now we can see that the other blacksmithing hammer, stuff like that, has started falling off, and stuff that he has obviously bought on the auction house, because there's no way you're going to buy this stuff from vendor or farm this if you're just sitting in the city. Is now starting to dominate the numbers here. And we can also see that for a lot of these materials, we're looking at 20-30% profit margin, which is the typical realm where you're going to find loads of deals. Now he obviously has more gold to invest, which means that he's looking for volume, and he's now taking deals with lower profit margin, because he just needs more items on the auction house. More items means more potential sales per day, and more profit that you can then reinvest to keep growing your little flipping empire. So this is very typical. Early on, you're going to see very, very high profit margins, because you can afford to just buy the best deals. Later on, you have more gold, you're going to want to get as many deals as you can that's going to generate 20, 30, 40% profit. And that's what's happening here. So very cool to see that this reflects like my experience as well with flipping. It works. It's very consistent. It's very consistent in the 20 to 30, 40% range. That's a ton of deals available on pretty much every realm in the game. So lastly, we're going to just look at the final tally. This is how it looked after 30 days. We can see 21,000 gold profit was what he made. And we can see that now, eventually he got enough gold to where he could start investing in some expensive one-off items, like Wall of the Dead for 1,000 gold, resold for 1,900. Schematic Major Recombobulator, 400 gold, resold for 900. And we can see that a lot of items now are one-off items that he bought for more, significantly more in terms of gold, and resold. We can see that stuff like, obviously, I'm not super familiar with Wall of the Dead, but entry-level gear, Flurry of the Axe, Plans Arachnight Reaper. Rare stuff is now contributing significantly more, and we can see for some of these items the profit margin is a lot higher than they are for materials, like 500% on the Plans Arachnight Reaper, for instance. We also see that blacksmithing hammer and copper rods, they stayed strong for the entire 30-week period. He sold 80 copper rods in 30 weeks for 400 gold profit. That's kind of silly. You just go to the vendor and you buy a bunch of them and then you post them. I guess I should maybe add this to my Wrath rotation. That's kind of funny. We also see a lot of materials. The types of materials that dominate here are ones that you can sell a lot of for the most part, like Relic of Ulduar. Fantastic item. He's almost doubling his gold on Relics of Ulduar. People are buying Relics of Ulduar in stacks of maybe 1,000, 1,200, because that's going to take you from the beginning to Exalted. So that's a lot of relics, which is perfect, because it means a large portion of the auction house is going to get bought out in one go, and people maybe don't care so much. It's 3 silver more per relic. It's still not going to be that much. It's still not going to be that much gold for the total price to get to Exalted. Then we have, well, heavy stones, cloth, matrix cloth. I'm surprised we don't see any enchanting materials here, because that's been one of the more consistent ones for me personally. In terms of flipping, we also see some herbs, both current ones and like Dreamfoil from Classic, still fantastic herb to flip. Other's Tongue is more recent, obviously, with actually dropping in Wrath Zones. But yeah, this just shows that a lot of the old herbs, like Sungrass up here, you got some great deals on that. People need this, because if they have a new character and they're going to level it, then they're probably going to want professions, and that means having to go 1 to 300 through all of the classic professions. So classic materials, TBC materials, they are never out of fashion. People are always buying them. So very cool little final picture here. Very kind of dominated a little bit more by BOEs at the end, which really brought in a lot of profit in the final part. But obviously we don't know exactly what he focused on, whether he primarily focused on BOEs or if he kept up pretty hardcore flipping on all of the materials. We don't know exactly what scans he did, but this is a really cool case study. Just flipping, just fantastic. He said here that at the end he had 16,000 gold worth of items on the auction house and 2,200 gold in actual gold. So he'd need to sell off all of his items to actually buy the token. And that's sort of the limitation of this like profit here, because it doesn't take into account what you've actually spent. So lastly, I'm just going to show you, this is a mailbox. Well, I posted like 9 days ago on my material flipping guy on Wrath. I have one. We can see I have 370 gold in sales from one post scan. Sold a bunch of nether bloom, sold a bunch of greater magic essence, sold some vision dust, some eternal shadow. Actually, this I shouldn't have posted because the vendor price is too high. What's very important when doing material flipping is to avoid items with a high vendor price relative to the price you're going to sell on the auction house, because that means if it expires, the deposit cost is going to eat a ton. So here we can see some of my results from doing material flipping on this character. I've not been doing this religiously, but I've done this most yes experiments. I have bought on other characters as well, but this is just what I've done on this lazy materials character. We can see I generated about 1,200 gold in profit. And we can see here that I really like the enchanting materials. I find that they're great because they're so cheap to repost. Then we have the stones, adamantite bar, bunch of good stuff here. I have been flipping on other characters as well, so this isn't going to include all of them. If we include all of them, this actually goes down significantly, because then it's going to include items that I have sold and bought and used for myself, like Spell Shock Necklace, which I have crafted 2 of, and then I've bought 1 for my actual character. Because I'm the lazy gold maker, so I'm not the same case for Spike Titan Steel Helmet. So there's going to add some weird stuff that's not actual like losses. But then we add the Mithril bar here at the top, which has been a great flip. When you do this, you want to reinvest as much gold as possible. Like right now I have 1,300 gold on this character and some amount of materials. Preferably I'd have 0 gold and complete bags and auction houses full of materials. That's what you want to do. You want to spend all your golds. Now that leads to a very typical like price, or rather total gold behavior. So if you're starting with say 100 gold, the new graph might look something like this, where you're going to be, well, fluctuating a little bit between something like 10, 100, depending on how much you sell on any given day. You're trying to reinvest as much as possible. Your gold is just going to hover in that low area for a really long time, because you're going to just increase the value of your posted auctions. So the value of the stuff you have on the auction house, that's increasing, but your actual gold, that's staying the same. Then eventually you hit the point where it's going to be harder and harder to find good deals, because you eventually have enough sales on a daily basis. Maybe you're getting 300 gold, 500 gold in daily sales. It's harder to invest 500 gold in potentially profitable flips every day if you're logging in every day. So at that point, you're going to start, maybe you can only find 400 gold of deals that day. So that means you have 100 gold extra left over in profit that actually sits around in your bags. And that's going to keep going. And then eventually you reach a point where it's like really, really hard to reinvest all of your gold. And your gold just starts ballooning up. So that's what's happened to me on a lot of different expansion. You spend your gold, you spend your gold, you spend your gold, you spend your gold into more and more profitable things. And then eventually you hit the break point where your daily sales starts growing faster than your daily expenditures just on the same types of markets, and your gold just balloons up. So that's typically what you'd see. Maybe if you're looking to actually make sure you have a token at the end of 30 days and you want to stop buying stuff at some point, or rather stop buying until you have enough gold for a token and then keep reinvesting. You don't want to reinvest, like you don't want to sell out everything and buy the token when you have, and then have 100 gold left over, and then you have to start completely from scratch. You want to make sure that you sell off like maybe half your stock, and that's enough to cover a token, and then you have the other half left over, so you can actually keep reinvesting, because that means that your next token is going to be easier to get. But yeah, that's a very fun, very cool example that Bilis has done. I really want to do something similar, but I just haven't found the time. Hopefully I can do it this autumn. Really want to do it maybe in September or October. Either way, thanks for watching. If you want to learn about specifically how material flipping works, then you should check out this video. It's going to be linked in the end screen. And yeah, good luck, guys.